All right guys, on this week's Land Beat, we're talking about springtime perennial clover maintenance. We are standing in an establishing perennial food source. So last year, obviously right now it's spring, right? But last year in the fall, a late summer fall time frame, had instructed the client to go through and drill 50 pounds of wheat per acre into the food plot. Now the reason for that is to establish a nurse crop along with the newly seeded or newly broadcasted perennial clover blend. The perennial clover blend is primarily a white clover, but does have crimson clover as well as alfalfa and a little bit of chicory in it. But what the purpose of doing that is establishing in the fall is you get the opportunity to get the establishment, the root establishment itself, as the perennials generally are going to begin their root production first, more so than their upward growth, kind of unlike an annual. But when you do that in the fall time frame, we don't compete with weeds because those are already run their course throughout the rest of the growing season. So we get an opportunity to be able to establish a great perennial stand at that time frame. Can it be done in the spring? Absolutely, sure can. But if we have a preference, it's going to be established plant in the fall, but now comes the maintenance time frame. Obviously, we've got wheat at varying stages coming up into this stand that is establishing itself. Oftentimes, people are always wondering, what do I do with the wheat that I planted as a cover crop? What should I do with it now? Is it going to choke it out? Is it going to smother it? What happens? Well, first and foremost, we have to know that to some degree, it's providing some shade. This is, as an annual, is going to time itself out. It's going to run its cycle, and in June time frame, going to produce a viable seed head and then essentially die, right? It's going to turn that golden brown or have lush clover underneath. You can choose to, if it's a weaker stand of wheat, not do anything and just let it be, right? That's totally fine. It's probably going to provide some of that shade throughout the growing season of the hot summer months on that young clover stand. That's totally acceptable if it's a thinner stand. But in areas where it's a lot thicker, like you can see back behind me, I would suggest to do some maintenance to that. And that maintenance is going to be spraying clethodim 2E over top of that, 16, 18 ounces per acre of clethodim 2E. That's a grass selective herbicide to treat that wheat. What I see often time frames, and I think is a mistake, is to go in and clip and cut that wheat off. The reason I choose to not do that is oftentimes when you have a mower or a brush hog that binds it up and then clumps it up, and then now we've got thatch and thick clumps of wheat, because it's going to be 4 to 5 foot tall wheat in this stand. You're going to get a lot of matting of that vegetation, that material, and what that can do is smother that newer clover. We want to promote the clover, right? That's the long-term crop in here. So I don't want my maintenance to take away from the establishment phase. Therefore, I'm just going to come in here, selectively spray it out if I feel like it's going to be too much, too thick once it gets to that maturity rate. If it's a thinner stand, I'm not worried about it one bit. Even if you leave it untreated, both treated and untreated will die. But what I don't want to happen is that thicker stand in the time frame of the early spring, early summer months when we do have a lot of moisture to be overshading and taking away from the moisture that should be going to the crop. So again, if I need to step in, I will, but oftentimes I think people are stepping in with the wrong maintenance tool and therefore taking away from the actual vitality and vigor of that newly establishing clover stand. We don't want to do that, so just be selective on what you do. Typically, you can have great results just by selecting to treat the wheat with a specific grass selective herbicide, and you're ready to rock and roll.